Carolyn Doobie here. What's the play for today? Well, today I'm going to share with you one of the ways that I keep myself in a playful mood when I'm creating. I'm going to be using a Spark of Artspiration. Now, the one I'm using today is this one. This is actually taken from the front of my apron. So it is a photograph of the front of my apron where I'm always wiping my fingers. Now, the Sparks of Artspiration are included free in my newsletters. And if you'd like to get this one sent to your inbox, there's a link down below and I'll send that right over to you. Now, with Sparks of Artspiration, part of why they help keep me in a playful state of mind is there is zero risk. Absolutely no risk to using a Spark of Artspiration. What happens if I ruin it, if I mess it up? If I really ruin it, I just print another one on the printer, no problem. And if I want to try more than one idea with it, you ever get that thing where you're stuck like, I don't know, should I do this idea or this idea? I can print out two of them and I can try both ideas. So for me, playing with a Spark of Artspiration is so low pressure, it allows me to just be free and explore and have fun. And that's what you're going to see as I create with this Spark today. Once you get your Spark printed out on inkjet, laser, whatever kind of printer you've got, on whatever kind of paper you've got, I actually have cheap copy paper here. Then what I'm going to do is start looking in it for images. I'll turn it until something pops out at me. Something usually jumps, and in this case, a weird rainbow caterpillar has jumped out at me at the bottom. Now what I want to do is make that caterpillar stand out just a little bit more. I'm going to grab whatever's within arm's reach. This for me today happened to be watercolor crayons. And I like them just because of the way they feel. They're very creamy, they're very dark. And I am going to just find the different segments on my rainbow caterpillar here. And one of the things you'll find as you play with sparks is that one day you'll see one thing in it, and on another day you'll see something completely different in the same image. Now, this isn't a space caterpillar. It's not floating around in our solar system. It needs some kind of land, something to walk on. So I'm just going to grab some white heavy body paint here and create a ground for it. Notice the precision with which I'm doing it. And by the way, there's no precision in that, none at all. This is just kind of creating some kind of sloping hill for my caterpillar to walk on. And you might have noticed that I'm not staying within the lines. And well, really, why do I have to? Who said we have to stay in the lines? This is a Spark of Artspiration for play. You can stay in the lines or go right outside them if you want. Well, now it's time to give this caterpillar a little eye, a little smile, and maybe even some legs. Now, before you say, hey, Carolyn, this isn't going to be anatomically correct, that's true. You probably won't find this in a biology textbook about what caterpillars look like, but this is the one that showed up in my Spark today, so this is the one that I'm going to draw. Now, so far, everything's been going along quite swimmingly, but what happens when I screw things up? What happens when I make a big old mistake? As I'm putting this border up here, all of a sudden I realize my little loops, my things aren't even. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to kind of darken that one up a little bit, and that leaves a little bit of that black smudge right there, and I can't just magically wipe it off instantly. Am I going to say that this is ruined, it's the end of the world? Well, if it really, really bothers me, I can print out another one and start from scratch, but what I tend to do when these things happen to me is I just call them an oops, an outstanding opportunity presenting suddenly. Now, I don't know exactly what the opportunity is in that, but I know there's one in there, and I'm going to trust that it will all work out just fine. The other thing is this is mixed media. This is not heart surgery. This is mixed media. So anytime I make an oops, I know that I can just put another layer on top of it if I want. And if you've seen many of my videos over on YouTube or read my blog over to colorfuljourney.com, you know that I make oopsies all the time. And in each and every one of those oopsies was an opportunity. Now, I might not have had a clue what that opportunity was when it happened, but eventually it reveals itself when it's ready to let me know what the opportunity was in it. Now, you're probably noticing here too that I'm not staying within the lines. And there's a good reason for that. I don't have to. If I don't like how it looks with me going outside the lines, magically scissors cut paper. So I will be able to trim this right along if I want to do that. Or I can just leave it going outside the lines and the edges. Whatever I want to do, I have the freedom to do that with this. Well, to figure out what this little guy is trying to say to me, I'm going to turn to a random page out of a book. Just tore a random page out, and now I'm going to kind of look through and see if any of the phrases seem like they fit with my little guy. And almost always, somewhere on a page, I can find something that goes with what I'm doing. And it turned out on this one, I actually had two. I wasn't sure which one I was going to use, so I cut them both out. And then once I was able to look at them side by side, I was able to pick. Here are the two I had to choose from. Anxious is a bit of an understatement, he murmured, and I understand when you leave, even if I don't like it. And I was thinking, well, the caterpillar becoming the butterfly, that kind of thing. And as I thought about it, I decided to go with the first one. Anxious is a bit of an understatement, he muttered. Because I started to wonder, what is it like for a caterpillar when it goes through that change to become a butterfly? That's got to be a bit unnerving, seeing as how I bet they don't get a manual for how this whole process goes for them, and they're completely liquefied in there before they emerge with the big, beautiful wings. But anyway, lots of change happens to a butterfly, so I can see where there would be some anxiety, or a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. You know what I mean by that. And I just colored those words in using some watercolor crayon on top of it. Now it comes the tough part, the hard part for me, which is positioning the words. It's kind of like a title to what I've created, and do I want to put them on the left? Do I want to put them on the right? And basically, once I pick one, I've committed to it, because some things, well, it's hard to just undo. Yeah, I'm making this sound like a really big deal, aren't I? When the truth is, this is a spark of artspiration. If it all goes horribly wrong, I can, one, put another layer on top of it and just say oops, or I can just print out a whole nother one. So I'm going to glue the words down, and then there's one last thing that I want to do to this before I'm going to call it finished. And if you'd like to play around with this exact same spark, there's a link down below the video. That way it can be sent directly to your inbox. That will also get you signed up for my weekly newsletter. And in that newsletter, you guessed it, there are new sparks of artspiration that are only available through the newsletter. Now the white paint wasn't completely dry, but it was close enough. And I'm just going to get rid of a whole bunch of that white space. It was just a little too much for me. Then I'm going to bring in a fountain pen, and I'm going to do a little bit of scribbled journaling right along the hill that the caterpillar's on. Now, as I'm doing it with this fountain pen, this is a Jane Davenport pen, and it is a wonderful pen. It can do almost anything, except that you do need to let the paint completely dry, which I did not do. So I'm going to wipe that pen tip off before the paint dries on it. And yeah, just be careful and make sure your paint is completely dry before you put a pen in it. Well, thanks so much for joining me for today's play. Remember, head on over to the blog and get signed up if you would like to have this spark sent directly to you. And if you've been enjoying this video, I'm always so grateful that you let people know that you enjoyed it by giving it a thumbs up and by sharing it. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of your colorful journey.